Alright, so the next step I'm taking with this new to me hood is in the realm of, if it's stupid but works, it ain't all that stupid. In the grand scheme of things, it will work pretty well, but it's gonna seem crazy at first. So I've got these. Basic sidewall return air grills, much larger than those Genrite ones. And you could be crazy enough to bolt them on even though they've got this raised lip here. I'm not. I'm going to make them flatter. And the other thing about these is once they're all coated in Line-X, they will be thickened and strengthened by that, so it will work. If you take one of these, in comparison to what I've got for Genrite, you see how much more cooling I'm going to get out of this thing. Now I just need to lay it all out and figure out where I want them actually at. So let's get to that. Alright, there we go. Much like my karate, it's brutal and effective. Now one of the things I was doing here that I didn't do on that hood, as you can see how I marked everything out and then folded it in. So I'm actually getting two planes to retain some of the strength and rigidity that would have been in this hood, because I cut out several of the spars. On that one I just cut the holes and bolted it down. This one I wanted to try something new and different, and obviously I don't have the metalworking tools, the body working tools it takes to make a good straight bend. So I'm just using straight up channel locks and a ball peen hammer. So yeah, brutal, but it would be effective. Notice on the bends it chipped a lot of the paint, especially where I was grabbing with pliers. So I'm going to hit all this top side with some self-etching primer before I button it all up. As the next thing will be to put those down on there. And then this hood will be ready to hand off to the boys at Line-X and let them coat this thing black, and we'll replace that hood. So this is probably double if not triple the airflow of what that hood has, which I think is going to be more appropriate for a 454 that's trying to run cool in the desert. Alright, holes that came with them, I've riveted them in. And one of the advantages of using something like this that's meant for residential, it's a way thinner steel than the stock hood, and so it's flexible, it'll follow the curve. So now with those in there, I need to drill and rivet a whole bunch more holes around there. I'm going to probably go, method I'm going to use, I'm just going to split it in half. I need another one around the corner, so I'll put one around the corner, split that in half. Same thing over here, split that in half and see if I like the hold on it. If I don't, I can do more. But I'm just using these regular steel 1/8 rivets. But this ought to give me exactly what I want, a ton of heat evacuation. The thing I'm worried about too is, since I have electric fans in that thing, you can get what's known as air stacking or hood stacking. If you don't have somewhere for that air coming out front to actually go and leave, you're going to pressurize the cabin basically, or the engine bay. So with this, that will never be a problem again. Besides, this is calculated to sit right over the exhaust manifolds, the biggest generator of heat in this engine, and so it'll come right out. And obviously one of the things you want to do too is, you notice I point them all backwards, and that's so when you're at high flow, air moving over here will pull air out, and it'll actually help pull the air out of the engine bay, which again helps keep the engine cool. What truck is that? Alright, there it is. They're both sealed in there pretty dang good. A simple question of how many rivets, how many do I need? I'm not building a B-17 bomber, but by the same token, I don't want this flying off when I'm doing 80 miles an hour down I-15. So what I look for, again, I said this was flexible, and I'm looking for, in between these two, this did flex a little bit. And so I'm looking for it to be held tight and not really be flexing. Now it's held in pretty tight. I don't see much in the way of any sort of flexibility there. But I'll be honest too that I've always enjoyed the look of rivets. You know, it could be both the fact that in high school I did, not high school, excuse me, in college. That could be both the fact that in college I worked on a local circuit NASCAR team, and we put a lot of that race car together with rivets. It's when I first learned how to use them. But also there's the mil-spec aspect. You know, I say B17, but there's still a lot of things that are built today that are absolutely riveted together, because it's a fast and simple way to get a good tight bond. And it's, you can barely get a fingernail under that, maybe a couple places. But you know it's on there tight now. That many rivets, they ain't going anywhere. And that's one of the cool things I mentioned before, is that because this is so flexible, it does follow, you know, especially with the rivets, it follows the contour of the hood a lot better than those Genrite ones would. Those ones flex too. They're aircraft grade aluminum, and that's one of the reasons people would use aircraft grade aluminum. That's because it's not as thin as this. But I'm counting on the fact that as soon as it is Linexed, it'll stiffen it up a whole lot, give it a good protective coating too besides that. But yeah, now it's just a question of getting this thing transported down there to Linex and having them shoot it in between truck beds and stuff that they're doing. Shouldn't take too long. I would hope to be able to have this done by next week. We'll see. Alright, one of the biggest reasons that I wanted to replace the hood was that Taiwanese replacement hood was rusting all over the place. So I want to make sure this one, which is a factory hood off of a pick and pull truck, remains as long as I possibly can keep it there. So I'm going to go and use some of this Eastwood's internal frame coating. Got it in black. That should work. It comes, you know, spray can and a long nozzle. So I'm going to take that and spray it all inside of the hood. So up inside every one of these frame holes, I'm going to spray it, everything I've got in there. Hopefully that helps this hood survive a lot longer. Now it is October. We've been pretty freaking cold this week, so I am taking a small risk. I say small because that engine block is up to 210 degrees. That hood is warm to the touch. Should be okay. So let's see what we can do. Okay, use the better part of a can, pretty much the whole can, to coat all those little channels in there. And it gets everywhere, as you can see. But that should have everything inside there nice and coated the way I need it to be. See a little speck there I need to take care of. Let's see what I've got. I might hit that with something before I'm done today. Yeah, a little bit there too, not taken care of. I did wrap it down on that piece of the metal like I wanted them to. Kind of would have liked it to come all the way down here past where the rust is at. Messy stuff, but yeah, it flows everywhere. It's probably got every nook and cranny. And it's supposed to encapsulate the rust and keep it from spreading, so we should be good. All over the engine bay with it. Whew. Note to self, next time you try something like this, mask it. Don't know. Will it come off this line X where I've splattered it, but at least that's under the hood. Probably not going to come off there. But yeah, now I'm going to feel a lot better about this hood, having this coated that way. Alright. That's it for the Eastwood internal frame coating used here. I was wondering what that was. A little bit of masking tape left over. It'll be all good. On to the next step. Okay, so it's your first time watching any of my stuff. A long time ago I did this little modification. Cheapo speaker wire. The ground leg is aluminum, power wire is copper, so it's very cheap wire for speaker. Comes out there, a bulb base soldered in correctly to the mercury switch of those. These little LEDs in between the front and there, you have about half an inch to an inch of clearance depending on where you're at, so they fit in there just fine no matter where they're at. Bothers me now that I got those on so crooked, but they will throw the light where I want it. So when I open the hood, I've got work lights under the hood, which has been helpful at night. So that's in there. And this internal frame coating stuff, it stays pretty, doesn't fully dry, which I think is half of why it's a waxy type stuff. So that's half of why it actually coats the rust and stops the rust, keeps the oxygen and water from ever getting to it again. So that should do the trick. Alright, on to the next step. Am I making a sloppy mess? Yep, I'm making a sloppy mess. Am I trying to fill every single spar? No, but I'm just trying to give a little bit of rigidity to certain points. And it's going to make a mess. And you don't touch these things that are falling down in the engine bay till they're dry, then they come off nice and easy. But up in here, I'm just hitting certain points to help out with a little bit of the sound deadening. I'm going to have to come clean this up a little bit in a while once it's all hardened up and dried. Then you can slice it off. Lesson learned. When the cans are cold, and the cans were cold, I'm warm right here, it's freaking hot right here, but the cans are cold, they don't spray out so well, so you gotta freaking soak them in a sink of hot water, which is what I did to get them to work better for me. But yeah, all these simple spots where you get a lot more clunking, put some foam in there, glue it together, minimize a lot of rattling up in here. All right, on to the next step. All right, there we go. All the sound deadening's in. I used my favorite GT mat again. Funny thing is, I didn't know I was ordering black foil. So now all the silver foil tape stands out. I like to tape all the joints or any of the relief cuts that I make in it. Especially since this is in the engine bay with a constant source of heat. This will definitely deaden any of the engine bay sound from hitting the windshield. GT Mat, I like them because they're not some Russian company. They're out of Texas, straight out of Granger, Texas. So next part, the final part for this is to get that heat insulator up in there, the fiberglass one. All right, there it is, culmination of a couple weeks worth of work. I've been waiting months to be able to pull this thing off. I ended up, the factory fiberglass shield is like 3 times less than this. It's about 1/3 of this one, so I'm putting this one back in. Probably missing a couple of Christmas tree little washer deals, but otherwise she's about done. And this should get me back to having a quiet cab in the interior. And there is the truck with the new vents on there. I'm gonna have to get some good shots of this and actually do that on Instagram. But there it is. The hood's now one color. The textures actually match, so I'm pretty happy with it. Alright, you come this far, appreciate you watching, and we'll catch you on the next one.